Absolutely. There you go. I love that. Thank you. Teresa or Edwin, would you like to introduce yourselves or?
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely. How's everybody doing? My name is Edwin. Sorry that I'm out here running around right now, so I got my camera off. But I've been following Prison to Partnership for a couple months now. I'm formerly incarcerated. I've been released for 6 months now, and I served 17 years and I was incarcerated. And I just really like the programs that you guys have been putting out there, like as far as the interviews and things like that. And when I saw this community partnership coming up, I just wanted to check it out and see what you guys are doing here. And I'm just really
Yeah.
happy to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's one of the unique things that we provide as a platform for everyone that has a commitment to our mission. Thank you. Teresa, hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm Teresa Kiddo. I'm from Saline, Michigan, and I was at the last meeting. Donnie invited me, and I have a son who is currently serving a life sentence without parole in Ohio. He's at Core Civic, Northeast Ohio Correctional Center.
Thank you. Awesome. Good to see you again. And thank you for being a yes. And always a pleasure I think that's another area that we really focus on is giving a space for families
Thank you.
to feel supported and with all the challenges that it comes to being a family member.
Yeah,
With
thanks.
yeah, thank you.
Welcome, Mike.
All right, man.
Welcome to prisoners.
I apologize for my tardiness.
No, we're so glad to see you. Everybody got to introduce themselves. So Mike is extraordinary, and he's only been out of prison for a little bit, but he's completed the OMCP. He's trained as a counselor. He's certified. He's worked tons in prison. And now already, has it been 4 weeks, Mike?
A little under a month. On the 16th, it'll be a month.
Yeah. And he's already working at Options Recovery Services, I hear. So it's all yours, Mike. Welcome.
Thank you. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. If you guys want to hear a little bit about my experience. So I led into dysfunction between the ages of 10 and 12. We're talking about permissive parenting. We're talking about there was childhood sexual abuse, there was emotional abuse, there was psychological abuse from teachers, and so I really looked at myself in a negative way growing up. So in that I embraced what worked for me in a survival sense. In that when I became big enough and old enough and strong enough that I resorted to violence and aggression. I didn't like feeling, so I started using drugs at a young age, which led me to life of crime, led me in and out of institutions until I ended up with 2 life sentences. I ended up with 235 life sentences. So I was well enmeshed and immersed in the gang culture. I was part of the hierarchy in both in and out of prison. So in that, that's what I relied on, status and reputation, which gave me value in life. And the more I was lauded for my negative behavior, the more I did. So I committed a lot of violent acts against people. I've done a lot of drugs, and I instructed other people to commit violent acts as well, in and out of prison. And then the time came where I got clean, and moving through it, I still didn't see a way out. I had 235 to lives. I was sitting in a shoe cell, a segregated housing unit, all by myself, and I started thinking, having those thoughts of, the who am I, the existential stuff that people go through young in life. But I'm having those thoughts mid to late 40s. And then when I came full circle to understand that what I seen in myself I didn't like, I started to move away from everything that I knew, and it was very difficult to do that because that was part of my identity. Everything that I knew was revolved around all that. So in that, I didn't know how to go about it. I didn't see a way out. And when it came time to do something different, I was offered an opportunity to elevate even higher in the gang culture in prison, and, and that ultimate status was as an individual. And I come to realize that I never liked myself from the age of 10 on. So that I didn't know what to do. And so I ended up saying no a bunch of times to people, and I ended up getting stabbed in prison, and then choosing to go to SNY and try to do something different, even though I didn't know who I was going to be. So I thought that I had to reinvent myself at 50, and 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 even though that was the case, what I struggled with was my own personal identity of who I was and who I've been my whole life. And then so the day the day or two after I got stabbed in prison, I was sitting in a cell in ADSEG, and I felt helpless. I felt hopeless. I didn't know who I was. So I was basically stripped bare of everything I ever knew. And I didn't know what to do at that point. So um, suicide was an option. Um, Getting back and being more violent. But I just sat in that for a while, and it was probably uh, the most uncomfortable thing I've ever done, besides look within and face my past, my abusers, the stuff I've done, the shame I felt all those years, um, telling myself that it's going to be okay, when in all actuality it wasn't, because everything I knew, everything I was gone. So I was standing there virtually, we'll just call it what it is. I was standing there naked, and for the first time. And I thought that I had to reinvent myself, but what I come to realize moving forward was that um, the skills that I learned of survival and in life, that all I had to do was repurpose them. So give them a different purpose, a different meaning, which gave me a different value in life. So where it came down to low self-esteem, lack of self-worth, lack of self-love, I started giving me myself that the more that I immersed myself in rehabilitative programming, going back to college, going back to school, and forming uh, academic identity. When I started going to college and I started learning about the stages of development for a young boy and a teenager, and the things that I was supposed to learn, that I was learning them in my 40s, that was part of my treatment and part of my treatment plan moving forward. So first, what I did was establish a modicum of self-esteem through going to college, and I still remember the feeling of getting my first. I took on 4 classes, a full load in college, and I got all A's, and that was the best feeling ever from coming to a space or from a place and experience of being told that I was stupid, that I'd never amount to anything, that anything that I ever done wasn't good enough. And I internalized those things and I personalized those things, and that was me. I believe those things to be true, because how could a school teacher be wrong when I'm just a child? So I believed what adults told me, and that became me. So after I started forming a decent and healthy self-esteem, then I started looking at the things that I won't say that were wrong with me, because they served me well in surviving in life and in prison and in jail, and doing the things that I was doing, getting shot at, being stabbed. um, those things they worked for me. But what I come to realize is those same things, that I could utilize those things to to navigate life in a healthy way. So my purpose became different. I started groups for the LWOP community that was in prison, that had little to no hope. I know what that hopelessness feels like. And for me, since education was my way, I infused these guys with going back and getting their GEDs, going back and getting college educations. And so our group was focused around preparing for commutation, preparing for board, but through the educational process and building self-esteem, having building on communication skills, and becoming knowing about how we feel, and how to process things in a healthy way, besides at the tip of a knife or punching somebody in the face. After that, the CC2 that was our sponsor, She pulled me into her office, and she told me that I was wasting my skills at the prison. I was in Calipatria State Prison, and she said I was wasting my skills, and she told me that she could get me into a program that would help me accentuate the skills that I already had and give me a profession. And I didn't know what she was talking about, but her, the CC1, the captain of the yard, they were browbeating me. They kept on telling me why I'm wasting my time doing groups, and I said, well, these guys matter to me. So um, the people that were around me did matter, and I wanted to see them do something with their lives and be different, and have a different experience beside, even though that they're the worst of the worst or considered the worst of the worst, and they had no course or direction in life. That for them it is hopelessness, because they look at where I had 235 lives. They had a life sentence with no ending, so death was the end. Um, so in that, I got to watch a couple guys through what was it, SB 260, 261, go out to court, come back and infuse hope and saying, hey, look, I get to go to board in like 5 years, or I'm going home because I'm a youth offender. I was getting to watch it, and all the guys got to see it. So I took a chance and went to Lancaster for the OMCP program. And when I got there, I was embraced. I didn't like the surroundings. The prison itself ran dysfunctional, and where I was set in a program, so I was thrown off kilter. But yet I still immersed myself in the program. The first portion was treatment, and I took that serious. The things that I recognized, that the more work I did on myself, the better I was suited to help somebody else out. Not to give them the answers, but to help and guide them into a way to at least look at the things that may be troubling them. Because I don't know their experience, but I've lived a similar experience, so I know what that feels like to be have no direction, have no support, have no guidance into the things maybe to look at, right? Just to go explore different things about the self, to where they could become better suited to navigate life, to be able to expand their knowledge, to build healthy self-esteem, to give and put back into a community that is predominantly dysfunctional. I'm talking about the prison system. The industrial complex that is there is completely dysfunctional. I'm talking about from the administration all the way down to the ground, the boots on the ground with the correctional officers. And even then, uh, we worked within the parameters that we were given, and the better that we were showing everybody, the yard population, the administration, and the rank and file, that we weren't the same people that we were when we committed our crimes. That self-reflection, healing's possible, the ability to be able to have a conversation with somebody that's been my enemy my whole life, which I'm referring to the officers, to be able to have an open dialogue with them, to understand that common ground is key in life, no matter what side of the fence you're on. Just those basic things helped out to where the population started growing. The more services that I provided, and the mentors that were there, even in internship, practicum, even while we moved through the program, guys were interested in doing something different, and I could see it. And those that wanted to do it for selfish reasons, half of them came around to understand that the, the, the more that they put into the population, to everybody else too. We modeled the things that, I guess, in a sense, the things that we were supposed to be modeled when we were youngsters, when we were teenagers, even though that a lot of us were in our 50s and our 60s, 40s, the young men that are coming into the system still, they go from being gang members on the streets to being gang members in prison. They have problems in prison, and then they get hurt. Then they come to the SNY or the PC yard, if you will, and then they're still doing the same dysfunctional thing. So for me, it didn't work on the streets. I didn't realize that till late in life. It didn't work in prison. I didn't learn that till late in life, but I was sure and committed to not doing the same thing. So I learned from my many mistakes for decades, and I learned from those mistakes and did something different. And One, I'm honoring my victims by doing that. Two, I'm honoring the people that supported me my whole life, even though I was in a dysfunctional state. I'm honoring the captain, the CC2, the OMCP program, the people that supported that program, the people that interact with that program, the mentors here, just by living where I'm at, where I never thought I would be at. Um, I found I found somebody that I lost long ago, and that was myself. So I'm in line and more authentic with who I am as a human being than I've ever been since the age of 10. And today, I could say, even though I can feel the emotion right now in the middle of my chest, that it feels good to know that today I am on the mend, that I have healed, that I have grown in many ways, and I've gotten the opportunity to do something that most people don't do in life, and that's the ability and the opportunity to look at oneself, to be able to go within, see the things that I don't like about myself, and to be able to work on those things without having life or anybody else get in the way. Um, so those things have been a benefit, and I'm highly appreciative of that. And I don't know where I'm moving forward in life. I just signed up for college so I can get my the bachelor degree in counseling. I signed up for psychology and counseling. I do want to go back and learn more about uh, adolescent development, and be able to go back and be able to guide and support young men and women in understanding their own life experience, what they're feeling, how to navigate through that time, and be able to support them in a way that I was unsupported. I want to fill that void that a young person has, in knowing that somebody's there for them, because I didn't have that as a young boy. So I'm driven by that. I want to do that in a big way. I've been given an opportunity to live in this awesome transitional housing with an awesome support team. Uh, Lady Peg has guided me and supported me in a way that no other person has in life. And there's a lot of different people that I can rely on. Where once I didn't feel that I could trust anybody in the world, where I viewed the world as hostile, and that people were going to hurt me. Now I understand today that there are those people that have genuine love for me, and care and concern, to where I can ask for help today, where before I couldn't, and I had to do it on my own. And my methods were uh, highly dysfunctional and violent and aggressive, but yet they worked for me. So once they became a mainstay of coping, then that's the way I utilized, because it was easy. Life's not easy, and I'm not saying that what I'm doing now is easy, but yet it's fulfilling in a way that I never thought possible. So that's just a little bit of my story. And I don't know if you have any questions about anything, then please, you're free to ask, and I'll do my best to answer them. But there's one thing that you'll get from me, and whether I like it or not, that I will be brutally honest with my answers. And I hope that in that honesty, that you'll find, you might not like my answers, or they might be um, concerning to you, but just know that I'll be honest in my life, my experience, and how I've seen things, or how I'm moving forward. So, thank you. That's just a little piece of me.
No, we appreciate the authenticity, Mike. So, like, a bunch of us have done enough work around ourselves that, like, we welcome that. Like,
Thank you.
you just get to say what you say, and there it is, right there on the court.
Right.
Because after you've gone through what you've gone through, like, that's all there is. Like, straight bold requests. Like, life's too short to beat around the bush, right?
Right.
One
Correct.
thing I wanted to ask you, to start things off, is like, where else uh, could you be supported with all the thing, being newly out, that, or what are you up against that you'd like to kind of get out of your head and bring it out to community, so
Uh,
that, like, the universe can align with you to, create new possibilities.
well, I think the biggest challenge has been, and it's really not much of a challenge being here in the Hope Academy, that it's been nothing but support from day one. Like Tomas, my first day out, he drugged me to the DMV and he drugged me to social services, and he was there on my hip the whole time, and I didn't feel um, unsupported. I didn't feel. I mean, I felt anxious and I felt anxiety because I was gone for 26 years, and in that, this is all new, and there was a lot of people in those spaces, and I don't do well, or I didn't in my past. I didn't do well in crowded places. I had to be next to the door. I had to be next to an exit. I didn't like people behind me, but I didn't feel that this time around. It was different. So I've gotten support like that. College, the counselors helping me navigate through the funding and the signing up for classes and walking me through it. Technology has been really uh, it's been it's
You
been a
grew up
struggle, right?
analog and came out digital, didn't you?
Yeah, right. What do you mean analog? When I left, it was still it was still a rotary phone, you know. So,
Yeah.
uh, so in that technology, really, it's been problematic, but I'm navigating through it. I get frustrated, and sometimes I have to put it down and just say, well, for now, you got to go sit over. You're on a timeout, and just put it to the side, right? And just work through it. But I've been helped and supported like that. I signed up for a couple basic computer classes at the library. I went last week on Wednesday and did that. And got my first bus ride around Oakland and navigated that. I got pressured out of my seat. I had somebody with mental health concerns come up and go, "You're in my seat." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry, man. Here, let me dust this off for you, sir. Go ahead, have a seat. It's your seat." But that there's the challenges I'm having right now is really um, less than 5 days before I was released. My mother passed away, so the two people that were my strongest my strongest cheerleaders I lost when I was doing time. So I lost my grandmother in 2008 when I was in the shoe, doing the things that I do, and she understood that she still loved me besides that. She told me that I was her little angel, but my halo hung on my horn, and I loved her for that.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
loved me unconditionally. My mother, I got to talk to her the day, or I should say the night that she passed away. I got to talk to her at 2:30, 3 o'clock, and she passed away a couple hours later. But she knew that I was the person that I was meant to be. She knew that I was coming home. She told me she loved me. I told her I loved her, and I wanted to give her a hug. And unfortunately, that's life. That's uh, we'll just call them consequences. So
And
yeah,
you got to get the phone call because a lot of guys they don't, so
yeah, they don't even get
they
that.
don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
I got all of that, the
yeah,
heartbreak, and
yeah,
yeah, like after mine passed, I'd be sitting at the office, and then something would come over me, or driving in the car, and then start crying. So like you just get to be that vulnerable man, and have it be okay, you know.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like,
You don't have to drink, drug, or blow your brains out
right. Well,
over
I
feelings
did.
anymore, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
After talking to Lady Peg, we talked about my understanding and of trauma and how it affects people, and we're talking about the energy that it has in the body, and it gets locked in there, and if you don't release it, then it sticks around and creates bad memories and bad symptoms. So
yeah,
yesterday, I went out and was pulling weeds in the front yard. People were driving by, going and seeing their moms, and I'm playing music and drinking my 7 Up, and I'm sitting in the grass. There was a whole lot of weeds, and I'm just sitting there pulling weeds all day, and well, for at least 4 hours. And I felt good afterwards, and I knew that the memory of my mother, and I was reflecting back on that. Um, she was proud of me when she left this world, that she was proud of me. So I just hold on to that, and so I started focusing on the things the reasons why she was proud of me. So she knew that I was a valedictorian in my class for when I attained my
yeah,
multiple
yeah.
AAs. She knew that I did well in school. She always knew I was smart. So in that, I'm just going to
Sometimes we
continue
can
to
almost be too
be
smart for
proud.
our own good, huh?
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah, I got
Yeah,
it. Thank
Mike.
you.
Yeah, Mike, I've got an observation. You were on the bus and you were confronted about your seat.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, that obviously took some, or must have took some processing on your part to, I'm sure that some automatic responses presented themselves that you overrode, that gave you the opportunity to respond in the way that you did, which made that situation not confrontational. So
Right.
if you could talk, yeah, I'm sure it was. You can talk a little bit about that and how you process that. But before you do that, I want to thank you for your generosity in sharing with us here this evening. Appreciate
Yeah.
that, and the
Welcome.
candidness of your experience. So thank you, sir.
Yeah. So in that, knowing what I know now as far as of myself going through treatment before we entered the educational phase and taking the practicum and the test and doing the internship, um, once I started this program, I started learning about what exactly mental health was, right? And in that, there's a lot of different facets to mental health. So I believe that in that moment, yeah, I did have that moment where I'm like, what? Man, who do you think you're talking
Get to
to, right?
choose.
There,
Yeah.
there was that moment, but it was a slight moment because what I identified first and foremost was that there was a man standing in front of me, and he had mental health concerns. I don't say issues because I don't know that man's life, but I could see it, and in that, I've learned to be compassionate of that. And in that, me punching him in the face and having a knockdown, drag down over his seat. What's important to me right now is this we'll call it the second chance, my first life, because I've never lived my life like this before. So in that, the process was quick. We're talking about consequential thinking. I do that, then I'm going back to prison. I'm not doing that. But more so, it was the compassion that I had for the person that was sitting in front of me, that was I should say, standing over me, being aggressive over a seat. Now, just to give the man the seat, that cost me nothing. Now, will I say that I had to swallow a little pride? Sure, I'll say that because of who I used to be. I'm not saying that part is completely gone from me, but yet the process was relatively quick. We're talking maybe a second, maybe two, enough for me to go, what? What are you talking about? Because then I'm looking at the person sitting in front of me. It wasn't about. I didn't make it about me. If he wanted the seat, then who am I? You want to go around me? Well, go ahead. You want to push me a little bit to get something that you feel you need. Well, obviously you need it more than me. So in that, there's a certain way of living that I'm adjusting myself to, that I don't necessarily make it about me. I'm not gonna put myself, to where it's detrimental for myself, my health or my well-being. But yet, I'm not gonna do anything to anybody else either that'll harm them, especially when the person is struggling or challenged with their own sense of reality or whatever they're going through. I can't do that as a counselor today. I live my life like that. So it's not in me to do that anymore. So it was quickly, it came, and then as soon as it came, it left just as fast. So and it was okay. And he was even smiling at me afterwards when I was just standing there, because the bus was crowded, and he probably wanted to sit down, probably been on his feet all day. And who am I to say? So what did it cost me to stand up while he sat down? Nothing, nothing. So it was worth it. So I hope that
Yeah.
answered the question.
It did. Thank you very much,
You're
Mike. And
welcome.
that's a royal road to success too, my friend.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. You've rewired some stuff that wouldn't have been the way it was 20 years ago, right?
No,
So
absolutely not.
yeah.
Absolutely
So
not.
high five on that.
Yeah.
Kent, you had your hand up, and then we'll go to Tony.
So, Mike, I just really want to thank you and acknowledge you, and I just have to say, I love the name Lady Peg. I've known Peg for 26 years, and you can't find a better person to be with and to model your life after. She is just a jewel.
Yes, she is.
She is, and I just wanted to. I was incarcerated for almost 4 years in the federal system,
Mhm.
and so I have some relationship with you and some knowledge of what it's like. I was in a low, so I really don't, because I was in the best of all the federal prisons there in California Long Beach, Terminal Island. However, I did see a lot of things that were very concerning, and the treatment was certainly quite inhumane. And our mission for our Prisons to Partnership is we welcome individuals and groups to share ideas and resources and make connections that foster a community committed to transforming the narrative around incarceration and reentry for individuals, families, and organizations. So I have two questions. One is, what do you see that we can do to support our mission? And the other is, given that part of our job as Prisons to Partnership is to educate people, most of us don't have a relationship to what it's like to being incarcerated. What was some of the worst things that you saw or had happen to you, and what were some of the best?
Okay.
That was that. That what I
Yeah,
had.
that's a lot. So, what can be done? So we're talking about from how I understood that question, we're talking about educating, um, we could say the outside population, but
Yeah.
I think it goes a little bit deeper than that. So I watched officers that are being put underneath uh, a microscope because a lot of them wear cameras now, so they can't resort to the tactics that they used to utilize on people like myself. So I can go into I'm gonna come back to what can be done. So my worst experience and my best experience was being able to have the opportunity to be where I'm at today, to work through that process. That's the best experience that I've ever had. My best experience is watching people have children and have relationships with their families again. I've watched people mend and find healing in prison, find a sense of peace, even though that it seems hopeless, right? So that's the best. The worst, I've watched, um, I've watched and I've experienced men be brutalized, be cuffed up, stomped out. I've watched people get their shoulders broke, their arms broke, their head broke. I've watched officers stomp people into submission. I've had them wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I say I don't hold licensure. I'm not a psychologist, but I say that I have PTSD from these experiences of them throwing gas grenades inside the cell, them opening up the cell at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and coming in there and dragging us out of our bunks and beating us up. I've had them throw the grenades in the cell that have rubber balls on them and beat us up that way. I've been cell extracted because I wouldn't come out of the cell. I've been shot with block guns, sprayed. The brutality that exists in the California prison system is horrendous. And that I'm talking about from the past. I'll say that it's gotten better because of oversight and the cameras and the way that politicians are trying to make it, and people like yourselves trying to make the prison system a safer place for not only the population but for also the guards too. I can't leave them out because I've watched guards get brutalized, be stabbed, be killed, things like that. So it's on both sides of the spectrum. And in that, I was having a conversation with an officer on the floor, and things are so chaotic right now because the population are manipulating and because they got the cameras now, they're taking undue advantage of how these officers operate during the day, and they're like one trick ponies. So what we were having the conversation was, they're like, we got these cameras now, we can't do nothing about this. And I go, well, what about changing your methods? What about changing your approach? What about looking at it from a different perspective and looking at the person you're interacting with or having the problem with as a dysfunctional human being that had the worst of experience, whether it be poverty, whether it be childhood abuse, whether it's not feeling like they're valued in this world, to where there's opportunity, those people didn't have the individual didn't have an opportunity to do that. How about looking at it from that perspective and have a modicum of compassion for that person and be able to navigate as a counselor? He goes, but I'm a cop. I go, okay, so you're here to correct behavior, right? I go, well, you got to find a different way to correct behavior besides cuffing somebody up and stomping them out and breaking their arm or writing them up and lying on the thing and getting them court cases and things like, because that's the methods, the tactics from before. You have to evolve, and the saying of evolve or die, that holds true in this system. Like they're coming in with the California model, right? And in the California model, and this is a thing that I could say that can be done, that I would like to see happen. Like, okay, they're trying to implement the California model all across the board. So we're talking about from level 1 all the way through the level 4s, and it's just not feasible on a level 4 270, the 180. It's just not feasible because these guys are so caught up in the dysfunction that they don't even understand that the opportunity that they have to live as as a decent human being. We'll just call it like that. So in that, I think its approach to the level 1s, 2s, and 3s is feasible. But when you have to find the common ground and the mixture of treating people as human beings, giving them the opportunity to do that and to be able to work through their own dysfunction and come to those realizations like I had, that, hey, you know what? I got to do something different. This person isn't the enemy sitting in front of me, and that he's giving me a chance. Well, let's have a dialogue as opposed to me punching him in the face. So, but both sides have to come together, and then I'm talking about the inmate population, the level 4 population, and I'm also talking about the guards union in the way that they treat us. They still see us as valueless, as violent, as just, they don't see us as people, as somebody that has struggles and challenges in their own life. So those are the things that I think can be worked on, and I think through support from the outside of people looking at it, like as you guys P2P, right? Prison to partnership. You guys have those open dialogue with the politicians that are pushing policy, and it's going to have to come. It's going to have to come from come in and through the resistance of the guards union that is bucking in evolution of the way to treat people that commit crimes. I'm not saying that committing crimes and victimizing people is right, but I'm also saying that even though somebody is in that dysfunction and they create victims, how do we promote public? The question is, how do we promote public safety in giving the person the opportunity, right? And if he doesn't want the opportunity, then still having that space of, you still have some lessons to learn. You haven't come to that realization, and be able to put them in a place that, one, they're safe, right? And that's speaking a lot from a level 4 perspective, but yet also while still giving them the opportunity to work through those things and hopefully come down to a lower population or a lower level, be able to do some self-reflection, and then be able to live in a community that's based around the California model. So I think it's a process that's relatively new, but from my perspective, I got to watch the past. So I've been in recovery for 9 years. I've been clean for 8, but I've also experienced the coming in with the cameras and the way the old thought, the old way of being on both sides of the fence. I've seen them both, from the guard's perspective, and also that because I open that dialogue. So we're talking about having dialogue and being able to come to that, and we're talking about training, different form of training, a different form of education, and that goes for both sides. You train and you so what I learned early in my own recovery, it was habilitation. I was never habilitated. I never learned the skills or had things that were modeled to me in a way of health, of living healthy. So in that, the same thing with the guards too, the way that they're trained to control. We're talking about power and control as opposed to having a little compassion and being able to work with people in order to get them to do what you do. I mean, punching somebody in the face, yeah, you're going to get compliance, but that's not going to last long. When the person is motivated to do it on their own, then you're going to get a behavior that lasts a long time. And I could speak for that. So habilitation is key for people that lack the skill set and the mindset to do something different. If you don't give them the opportunity and you treat them, so I use that in my paragraphs. You treat a man as he is, and that's what he remains. You treat a man as he can be, and that's what he becomes. So I'm a full believer in that, and I got treated differently because I treated myself differently. So in that there's a big push for at least for myself. I would like to see a big push happen for both sides of this conversation in a positive way for the population. You can't give a population that is highly manipulative, highly aggressive, highly violent, and sees things selfishly. You can't give them everything, because if you give them everything, they're going to remain the same. But the same thing with the guards. If you give them everything they want, they just want to kick in heads and gain compliance through force and violence, the same way that the population operates. And they're both fighting against each other over a power struggle. But if you come and find a common ground where compassion can be given to somebody that has victimized somebody, I'm not saying that victimizing people is right, and it should be lauded or given gifts for, right? But in that, same thing with the cops. You can't kick somebody's head in and expect to get a pay raise or get some stripes out of the deal, because then you're just advocating for bad behavior, and that's on both sides. So I think the conversation can be had, and I'm hoping that I get to see it in my lifetime, that both sides do something different and come and find a common ground for a healthy and base it around public safety.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. We're kind of almost out of, we're not kind of out of, over time, but thank you for showing up. Tony, got a quick one?
I'm not sure it's quick. It's quick for me, but it might not be quick for Michael. Michael, hi. Let me just ask the question. You were leading gangs while you were in prison, and then you decided that was not the right way to go. What were the consequences from the gangs that you were part of? And how
What
did
do you
you?
mean? What do you mean?
Like when
Well,
you,
the consequences were widespread. So people lost lives, people lost property. Um,
And that's
man,
when you stopped. Were you in
when
danger?
you stepped out and said, all right, I'm no longer, how was that accepted or
it
not?
wasn't it wasn't accepted. So they the day I said that I was not participating, I did not want to elevate anymore, I was told nobody tells us no. 2 weeks later, they went and killed the guy that they wanted me to go kill. 2 weeks after that, and I seen it coming, I didn't lock up. I didn't go ask for help. I just took my licks on the way out the door. I was stabbed 13 times, and then that was my punishment. So it was the same thing of you commit violence, and you got that on the way out the door. So in that, I'm lucky to have my life. I lived through that. I didn't lay down. I fought, but yet that's just the way the cookie crumbles, right? That's part of the game. It's you're a violent person, and usually most people, they either get their lives taken through violence, or they end their, we'll call it, careers of violently. So
Well, at least
that's
it's
how it
that
was
way
for
for
me.
now,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'd love to talk to you, about how, what we found that's helped us kind of put our past in our past, and also, to create the space to have new possibilities be there, to be able to like complete, you know, what we've seen, and sometimes we can't unforget that, right? It's
That's
like
true.
being a vet, war is war, whatever, whether it's on the
Right,
street or it's, in a foreign country, right?
right,
Right. There's that stuff. So, love to share with you what we're up to around that some technology that will make make you highly effective in everything in every area
right,
that you're doing, right?
right.
And I salute you for taking on going back to school. Um, that's something I did as well, and did the chemical dependency counseling program for a while, and andthat, and I was pointed to. It's like, no, you're not. You don't need to do that for a living. You go right, and so I get to now support men. I'm 38 years sober, so there's right. It's about giving away to keep it, right? So
Yeah,
so I just salute you for it took something. Like, luckily that conditioning came in there and it was like, hey, no worries, my friend. Have a great day. and that takes something. So I just want to acknowledge you. And it's a 1 day at a time deal. So like, he caught you on a good day, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, yeah,
Bob, we got to get Mike to a landmark introduction session
yeah,
soon.
yeah. So, if you can put your phone number in the chat there for me, I'll reach out to you. I've got
And
something going on at 8 o'clock tonight, 7 o'clock tonight, your time Pacific, if you're around.
Well, Peg knows where I live at, and
Okay.
Judy does too. Judy has my direct number, email, and all that. If she wouldn't mind, you
All
guys are
right, Peg,
guys are
put
more
it in
than
the
welcome
chat
to
there
call,
for
and
me.
we can have a conversation.
Yeah,
Mark,
awesome.
thank you for your authenticity.
yes,
Thank you.
Thank you very
So,
much.
just to remind you, we will be here again next month. Mark, do we have is Mark still here? Do
He's
we
here.
know who our speaker is for next month? I forgot to write it down. Okay. So if anyone's got wants to has someone in their life that would make a great speaker, or anyone, Mike, anyone in your program, right? Would love to, you can share what an awesome experience this was. Would love to have provide that platform.
and
Yeah.
when's the conference? Robert, when's the conference?
The conference will be the week out before Thanksgiving in November.
November 22nd.
More to be revealed there. Christina, you came on screen. Anything you want to say?
No, I just told Mike thank you for his authenticity. It was really extraordinary to listen to you.
Thank you.
Your level of accountability for yourself is moving.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
So
Thank you,
be
Michael. And
June 9th.
I also wanted to acknowledge Michael for dealing with everything he had to deal with to get here and to share his story with the traffic and the technology and all of that. I mean, thank you for being so authentic and sharing so generously with us, especially considering the circumstances you were dealing with. Thank you. It was
For the
great.
record, I've not been locked up and I still struggle
All
with
right, thank you.
technology. And I'm probably about your age.
I love it. Thank you. And June 9th will be at 5 o'clock, right?
Pacific, yeah.
Yeah, 5 Pacific. We'll be here again next month, and encourage everyone to come back. Visit our website, prisons with a P with an S, to partnerships with an S.org.
To the number 2.
What?
To the
Number 2.
The number 2. Thank you. And if anyone want to hang out and chat with Michael a little bit more, we'll keep the meeting open.
Can you do that, Mike? Can you stay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, I apologize for being late, but I was doing my training for options to be able to practice, be a counselor for options. So we hit traffic on the way back. It was unexpected, and I apologize for my tardiness.
I don't know.
Glad you made it.
What was it, the 101, or was it the
No, he's in Oakland.
He's in
is it the
Oakland.
808? What's that road that
880.
880? That's it.
880,
Yeah.
880 to 13. I'm learning all about Oakland.
Yeah.
I'm new up here.
Get rid of my
For
Good,
sure.
good.
Right.
Yeah, no, rush hour traffic's rush hour traffic. It that's the one thing you don't really have there. When you're there, right? Anyone else got any questions for Mike, since we're
Yeah, I got a question, Mike. Mike, are you working with guys that are presently incarcerated?
What about you down there?
Mike,
Yes.
are you working with guys that are presently incarcerated?
No, I did. So when I got my training, I was in prison. When I
Yeah,
took my
yeah.
test, I was in prison. When I
Yeah,
did my
yeah.
practicum, I was in prison. When I did my internship, so I did my whole, I got almost 3,000 hours of working with specifically men that are incarcerated in groups. So it was
Great.
predominantly
That's what
on
I
the
want to
yard.
ask you about. There's this critical moment where you're talking to somebody and they've got a problem and you're trying to handle it, and they're perhaps having that great shining moment of sanity where they realize they fucking need help. So they're talking to you about it, and you're trying to steer them in the right direction. And at some point, you have to get their crew to let them go so that they can get better. Do you have those conversations? How do you do that? That's what I
Okay,
want to know.
so in that, I direct them to exactly what motivates a person. So I look at them and I ask them, you know, so what's the biggest thing to you? And what I found was that most men, most people, that in the beginning they'll attach getting clean, going to college, doing something different to an external thing or person. So I want to do it for my kids. I want to do it for my wife, you know, and then magically in my own process, I seen this to where the mirror started flipping around to where I started to want to do it for self. And that came with self-esteem. That came with understanding that in many ways, I'm broken. I need help. I need to rely on somebody else. So in that, it's not so much about the crew, because now we're talking about identity. When you're interacting with a man that's been like myself, has held on to this identity for decades, it's hard to get rid of that identity. You don't ever get rid of it,
Yeah,
but what you do
right.
is you just start spinning it around and twisting it just a little bit and guiding them in a way to where they can see themselves in a light that's not violent, that isn't that. It'll be something that makes them feel proud instead of because most men, like I've never felt really proud of the things that I did in my life to hurt people, to take life, to sell drugs, to to victimize people, I should say, commit crimes and make victims. That spun me into a toxic shame of still feeling that I'm bad. Not that I did something bad, but I'm bad. So when that keeps on spinning, when you get them to see the difference, it's life changing, and I get to see it real time. I'm like, oh man, and no matter what their boys say after that point, they're going to move in a different direction, and you just keep on guiding and supporting. So that's how I approach it.
Yeah.
And the boys come around, don't they?
Oh, for sure. They'll
Yeah.
continually come. The odd thing is when you quit using dope, like I'm a heroin addict. I'm just strictly, I'm a purist when it comes to that.
Whether there's actually pure H. Go ahead.
Still kept on coming around. Here, you want this
Yeah.
for free? Or I got
Yeah.
you. Same thing with the boys. The boys are going to come around until they see that you're not doing the same thing. And then they got you on the shine and you feel some kind of way. But then they move different because they know you're doing something different. And there will be a point in time where either the drug addict that you used to hang out with, right? Or the criminal team that you used to support will go, oh, you think you're better than us. And that's kind of
Yeah.
sticky too, because then in that point, you say, no, I don't think that I'm better than you. I'm just doing something different, homie. I still got love for you. We've done some things together, but in that I'm moving in this direction. If you want to stay there, and a lot of times they'll feel some kind of way to where they start reflecting. And then sometimes you'll pull 3, 4 guys from that same crew to do something different because they see somebody. So they call it the philosophy is social proof. So if I can do it, then you can do it. And when we're similarly situated, I got blues on, you got blues on, and just because I'm moving into college and I'm doing these different things and good things are happening to Mike, guys are standing off to the side saying, I want that. I've always wanted that, but I don't know how to get it. And they'll come up and say, hey, Mike, how'd you do that? And then we have that conversation. And then at that point, I still see them and I make it a point to go to them and say, hey, man, how you doing
Right.
today?
Yeah.
They get
Right.
they get
And
GED.
you get to create a new
What's
crew.
next? Right.
You get to create a new crew of now men that are in line with the new path.
Right.
Well, thanks for
Sure.
sharing. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Thanks.
appreciate you, Denny. Thank you.
Peg, did
Anybody
you
else
send
got
me
any
his
questions?
information? Anyone else?
What's Teresa got? She's sitting there.
Yeah.
What you got, Teresa?
Happy Mother's Day, belated.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have any questions. I don't know if you were here. My son is currently incarcerated in a level 3 in Ohio, and he was imprisoned when he was younger also, for 3.5 years in Michigan. But then he was at a level 1. So this is a much harder environment, I think, for him to get through. He's not a violent person. He was not in a gang. He is innocent. He shouldn't be in there. But because of his previous prison experience, I think he kind of knows how to navigate pretty well. But he has been having some, issues with people coming in and stealing things. Somebody came in with a knife a couple weeks ago and took his TV, and he knows he's supposed to fight back or it's going to keep happening. But because he practices Buddhism and is very nonviolent, he's not. So he's been safe so far, but he does have he's built relationships with other guys on his pod, and some of them are in gangs, so they are the ones who I think he's learned to get other people to protect him.
Right.
But I don't know if you have any advice for him in staying safe and he's not affiliated, and almost everybody on that pod is.
Right.
Yes.
So it's about survival. So in that, the thing
Yep.
is since he's a practicing Buddhist, that non-violence in a violent place, it's difficult, right? But the thing is that if anybody's around that he can attach himself to and be part of something other than the violent people that are around him, then navigate and move to those people, and don't hesitate to ask for help. I've watched guys get victimized in and out and multiple times, and they just would not ask for help. And then the odd thing is that if you do stand up for yourself, the rule of thumb is that I'm not going to come and protect you if you're not going to stand up for yourself, right? So I'm not promoting violence because he's nonviolent, but the thing is that's the mindset. So in that,
Right.
don't be afraid to ask for help, even if it's the officer. Hey man, I gotta go. This is a violent place, and I'm being victimized, and this is not cool. For me, I sat in isolation for better part of 2 decades, and that was probably some of the most peaceful, serene place, and I was able
Meditate on.
to be
Yeah.
myself, and I
Yeah.
was safe, right? But
Yeah.
in that, everybody has their own way, but don't be afraid to ask for help. If there's somebody that he can befriend that is violent, and start having those conversations. And it's kind of like what was that movie back in I think it was the 80s, My Bodyguard, where the young kid got the big guy and he was his buddy, right? To
Yeah.
navigate something like that. So some of those tactics do work, and it just
Solitary always works, right?
hey, be nice to the big guy, right? Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and he wants to get out of there. He wants to level down.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
that's not going to happen if he's violent. But
right.
he's never
True.
been not one ticket in 3.5 years in Michigan. He's been in the Ohio system for over 2.5 years now.
Tell him to stay the course then. Stay the course, and
So
goals are important, and
yeah,
I wish him well. I really do.
yeah,
Yeah,
thanks.
yeah.
So, and the other thing I related to when you were speaking to were the guards and how they want control. And it's not just with the inmates. Sometimes you see it with families too, in the visiting room, and just going in there,
Oh,
and they're
right.
not, they're unnecessarily rude. They're racist. They're,
Yeah.
you can see how they treat different people based on the color that they are, whether it's black or white. And, so, and it's all about control. It's just ridiculous, some of the things that they do. So they do need
It looks
training, lots
ridiculous
of
out
training.
here, and in there, it's just that's the
Yeah,
way it
So
is.
that's bad
yeah,
across the board. They
Yeah.
do that on purpose to dissuade you from. They don't want you coming in, because
it's
the
work
worst
for
thing
them.
the worst thing for a prison is when people from the community, from the outside, starts wanting to know what's going on the inside. So being an ostracized community, when there's people poking around and saying, "Hey, what's going on in there?" They don't like that because then scrutiny comes around and people want to know and then advocacies like advocacy groups like yourselves start asking, well, well, you guys are tied to politicians, and then politicians rely on the vote, and so the vote gets some money, and there's it's just like this never-ending cycle. So the best thing is like if there's a process, a families group that gets to talk to the warden, then you can have those conversations. I've watched families and wives come together and to protect their loved ones that are in prison and having that dialogue. So we're coming back full circle to the dialogue that can be had and to promote public safety through treating people with a little. I'm not saying you have to treat everybody with kindness and compassion, especially, you know, the type of person that I was once. So it can happen, you know.
And usually
Yeah.
the chaplaincy is always a good resource, you know,
Okay.
because that's kind of their job, right? They bring in faith-based organizations, you really bring in different programs. That's kind of a lot of times, at least in Georgia, that was their main that was they were that program leader. It's like here,
Yeah,
everything on the rehabilitation side came through the chaplaincy side program usually, or the education side. So
right.
yeah, so that might be a place to ask
Good
for.
to start. Good to know.
Yeah, I wanted to let Teresa know that in the work that we've done with like Compassion Prison Project, we've sometimes had the guards participate and have found out that the guards are often as highly traumatized as some
Yeah.
of the incarcerated people. We had a lieutenant in a California prison share that half of her family is incarcerated and the other half are in law enforcement. So in these prisons, you can take these two highly traumatized groups of individuals and lock them up together and then see and what do we expect is going to happen, you know.
Hmm.
So that insight gave me some compassion for the corrections officers as well, and
Yeah.
wanting to find a way, like Mike says, you know, together to create some dialogue and common ground and healing on both sides.
Right.
Yeah, when we can get to the humanity instead of like the ego or the fronting, then like that need, you know, that usually shows up as a way of protectionism, right? To survive. That's then that you know, that's what we're here for, right? To create that safe space so that you know, that those skills and can be developed, and you know, it's a practice.
Cultivation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to plant seeds and cultivate.
Yeah.
Teresa,
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, you're
Teresa, we
welcome.
don't really, it, this is unfolding as we go, Teresa, and we never know when we'll come upon something that's a real possibility for Michael. It'll just arise in one of these conversations, or somebody working with whatever organization. We'll find somebody in Ohio that can actively work with him. That's what I'm always listening for,
Yeah.
because we're all over the place here, and there's some states like California that have a lot of resources. And I think that the resources in Youngstown are limited. I think they're,
Very.
but I looked at their website. They are not without resources. There are some rudimentary developmental resources there on the website. I did notice that.
Got it. Yeah. And just continue to bring it into dialogue, Teresa, you know, like just like you know, my son needs help and I don't know what to do. And asking that and bringing that out. Like you never know who might cross your path at the right
Right.
time that will. So thank you
He's
for your
really,
authenticity and your vulnerability to bring that to.
he's me talking to the warden or complaining about things because he is afraid that he will then be a target. So unless he says, yeah, go ahead, I tend not to do it. But when, you know, they mess up his medications, they don't give him his antidepressant for a week at one time, I'm usually right on it and copying the attorney, and then lo and behold, he gets his medications. But other than that, he's not real keen on me
Okay.
advocating that way.
Okay.
So, and I
Well,
don't know if
thank-
it's true, if there is retribution or not for
Oh,
doing, for
there
complaining.
is.
Oh, there
There
is.
is, okay.
There is.
I'll give you a brief example. So my mother used to come see me at Calipatria, and they used to mess with my mom a lot. They used to strip her out. They used to hassle her all the time. And then it came to a point to where she got on the family group that used to go talk to the warden. So she started having these conversations with them. And then so I started getting it. And I was like, Mom, what are you doing? And then she's all, well, I'm doing it. You're gonna have to suffer. I go, okay, all right, we're gonna suffer through this. So I had my mother had a lieutenant, two sergeants, and three officers moved from the visiting room. And then then the cops came to me and said, hey man, you got to tell your mom. I go, wait a minute, man. You want me to do what? Are you going to tell your mom something? He goes, hell no. And I go, well, neither am I, because my mom would rough me up. I'm not doing that. So
Yeah.
what I'm getting at is sometimes when you speak up, expect retribution, expect that, because then you're going to have to go through that a little bit. I'm not saying that if it becomes a detriment, then sometimes the thing that you speak up for are the things worth maybe sacrificing life for. I'm not saying that that's what it is. I'm just saying sometimes your voice in being heard, and then it's going to be heard, but you're going to have to take that sometimes. And I learned that a little bit from my own mother, but yet I know what it's like to be in a detriment with the cops messing with you because your mom's speaking up, right? So always advocate for your son. Just let them know that, hey, if it's getting too hectic in there, then okay, have that conversation, but keep that dialogue open with them. And sometimes just let them know, hey, sometimes in life that you gotta use your voice and
there's a
use your
space to
voice.
like share from. You don't have to go to the newspapers. You could,
Right.
but if someone crosses your path, like, and they're not going to act on your behalf without your permission. So sharing is like you'll get some advice and then you can take it or not take it. So like the act of just sharing out in the community, as long as there's no action taken, the sharing, unless it comes back to someone, is doesn't have to be, you know, a bad thing.
Yeah. So
That going to the press, you're guaranteed that'll get to the,
okay.
right.
So in that, I want to say, Teresa, utilize, and I don't know if you're from Ohio or wherever your son's
No,
at, right?
from Michigan, yeah.
But utilize your voice within the political side of this. So where my mother got the most action and the most rhythm that didn't cause me harm was she was reaching out to congressmen, she was reaching out to assembly people, she was reaching out to the politicians, and those politicians actually, because she was a constituent of theirs, that they were calling up to the prison saying, hey, what are you guys doing? So again, the voice from the outside wanting to peek underneath behind the veil, right? The great Oz looking back there. What are you guys doing in there? Will lessen it. They'll have your son on like, okay, just leave that guy alone, and they'll leave him alone. Trust me. But involve the political process and having those conversations and voicing your concern,
Because
even
that's
if
where
you
the
get
purse
somebody
strings are
that's around, right?
as well.
Yeah, I'm not part of the state though, so I can still try that though.
Still call
And
them.
with
Still
our
talk to them.
with our federal politicians, you can reach out to any congressman or representative in any state because
Yeah,
Mm.
got their names.
Yep.
yeah.
Use
Already
them.
have them.
Use them.
It's and anyone that's
Yeah.
on any of the social justice or criminal justice committees,
Mhm.
right? Like now it doesn't matter who, because they're on the committee and that, right? So
Yeah.
especially at the state where they have those various committees. So with going out to Ohio, looking up those Ohio committees members and advocating there, like that's
That's really helpful.
Yeah.
Thank
yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
Again, Michael, thank you for your
Thank you.
generosity, your authenticity,